former British Army Colonel Tim Collins, who participated in the Iraq War, when responding to the British Daily Mail, pointed out that the effort to combine Soviet-era military doctrine with Western technology caused losses to the Ukrainian army. Mr. Collins frankly expressed, "The Ukrainians' problems are, I believe, self-inflicted to some extent. Using Soviet-era doctrine with Western equipment will simply not work." Mr. Collins believes that the approach of the Ukrainian military commanders, for instance, the use of smoke on the battlefield to disguise movements and protect assets, is a standard practice for NATO armies. Yet, the Ukrainians refuse to use the smoke generation capability available to them. As a result, the minefield clearing and obstacle bridging effort is being hammered by Russian snipers and artillery targeting the pressures, hard-to-replace choppers and engineer equipment, whilst hampering the maneuver needed to preserve the force and defeat the enemy. Encountering fierce resistance from Russian troops, especially threats from artillery fire, armed helicopters, and especially suicide UAVs, forcing Ukrainian units to manually clear mines and organize attacks at night. Then there are the other problems faced by the Ukrainians. Can they rely on the West? Is the supply of arms just enough to survive, but not enough to win, as some Ukrainians fear? And can the supply of manpower be sustained? According to U.S. news agency CNN, during the summer counter-offensive that took place over nearly 5 months, the Ukrainian army conducted counterattacks in the direction of southern Donetsk, Bakhmut, and Zaporizhia. Ukraine used its main force, brigades trained and equipped by NATO, to spearhead the counterattack. Meanwhile, the Russian army switched to using a new tactic called athletic defense to push Ukrainian troops into a dead end. Ukrainian troops planned a counterattack but were skillfully intervened by Russian troops and led into a pre-arranged trap. Overseas, U.S. politics are a significant cause for concern. Continued American support is vital to the survival of Ukraine, but the U.S. presidential elections are looming. The recent spat between Poland and President Zelensky is also a worry to Ukraine's friends and bound to Vladimir Putin. The victory in the Slovakian elections of Robert Fico will mean not only an end to support for Ukraine from Slovakia, but perhaps the beginning of a trend across the NATO members who are better disposed towards Russia. With tensions ramping up in Kosovo and the US government expressing concern at a build-up of Serbian troops on the border with Kosovo, Putin must be drawing some comfort from the divisions among Ukraine's allies. The winter cannot be allowed to be a respite for the Russians. The pressure must be kept up with direct and indirect fire to prevent the Russians repairing or reinforcing their damaged lines. Long-range weapons such as the guided multiple-launch rocket system, British Storm Shadow, and French SCARMs must be aimed at Russian headquarters and high-value assets, as well as the vital supply routes via Kerch and Crimean Peninsula. This capability for long-range precision strike will increase dramatically as and when the US Army Tactical Missile System arrives, which it reportedly will at some point. ATACMS will offer longer range, covering on Russian-occupied territory. It is simpler for the Ukrainians to use, as it can be fired from ground vehicles they already have rather than being dropped from a fighter jet. Its supersonic speed makes it hard to resist. However, ATACMS may not arrive for some months yet. The long-awaited arrival of F-16 jets will also make a huge impact, especially if they are equipped with the right weapons, and could allow the Ukrainians to fight in a truly combined arms manner. In another development, speaking to the press, the Kremlin spokesman answered recent questions regarding the impact of the fighting in Israel on Russia's military campaign in Ukraine. Specifically, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on October 9 that the fighting in Israel would not affect Russia's special military campaign in Ukraine, according to TASS news agency. The Guardian newspaper quoted Mr. Filippo Grandi, head of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, admitting that this organization is facing one of the most difficult times in its history of more than 70 years of operation. Accordingly, this organization is having to deal with a series of problems, including financial shortages, in the context of about 110 million people to migrate around the world.